This podcast is sponsored by Terraform Development proudly supports the Hopi tribe and nonprofit Hopi entities to provide essential technical support in engineering, architectural, and project management services. Eddie Kalniptua can relate to the hard work on the Hopi reservation, including the cornfield duties and traditional ceremonies that he was raised on. He values this tradition, so Terraform Development was formed to meet these needs on the Hopi reservation. Contact Terraform Development at TERRA4ORM.com and follow them on Instagram at Terraform Development.
Also sponsored by...
Hey, Tom here with Hopi Relief. Hopi Relief is a nonprofit organization based down here in the Valley where we are providing much-needed supplies to the Hopi Reservation during this COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. Please visit hopirelief.org and find out how you can get involved. Hopi Relief is also an Arizona-recognized charitable tax organization. And please, visit us December 1st on Giving Tuesday. Thank you.
You are now listening to the Carl and J-Man Save the World podcast. I'm your host, the 20-star diamond chef Carl, and with me is the lonely guy that lives with his wife, J-Man.
What's going on out there? Everyone's probably wondering, is today upside down day?
How did you like my intro?
You got the guy that would rather watch Saturday morning cartoons than work on his cornfield.
Hey,
the introduction.
I watch it because I work hard at the cornfield.
And then you got the 5-star, 5-diamond chef sitting on the bench.
If you did listen to my intro, I'm the 20-star diamond chef. I believe it goes all the way up to 20 stars, and I'm maxed out.
And you also forgot that I am the godfather of Hopi podcasting.
Well, I'm the god of this whole thing here. You'll still be the priest to answer my calls.
And we're back with a new episode.
Yeah, we're back with a new episode. Hello again, guys.
Hello again. Everybody's out there. Hope you're all doing well. We got some snow out here on Hopi land, and so both you and I are kind of freezing our balls off in the studio.
Yeah, it is. It is really cold here.
Really cold here, but definitely I want to give a big shout out to all of our listeners out there. This last week was our most successful week on the podcast.
Oh yeah,
we had the most downloads over a period of a single week. So thank you, everybody out there.
All right, well, thank you. Let me give you guys a clap there.
Give you all a clap out there, and definitely special thanks to all of our 30-pack sponsors. Big shout out to all of our sponsors out there, also to supporting the podcast. Big shout outs to those of you that purchase shirts. For those of you that don't know, we do have shirts for sale at carlandjman.bigcartel.com. And then shout out to all of the folks out there buying us coffee. Definitely all of your support is helping us to expand and grow.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, everybody, for doing that, because it does help us out with all of the merchandise and keeping us on the air for you guys to listen to. And it keeps us out of trouble.
Keeps Carl out of trouble, keeps him busy. Got him in his little lab out at his home in Hotvella, cooking up all of the YouTube channel episodes, cooking up all of the podcast episodes. But today we got a very special topic today. And then we also have a special guest.
Oh, yeah, we do have a special guest.
We have a special guest today in the studio, and then we'll bring her on and she'll introduce herself. But today's episode, we're definitely going to cover a topic, something that we've kind of covered to a little bit to an extent with our matrilineal society episode.
Yeah.
But this one, we definitely want to cover the topic of women in leadership.
Well,
leadership women.
Yeah. The reason why is because March is Women's Appreciation, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. March is the month of Women's Appreciation.
Shows you what kind of man I am. I'm barely hearing about that today. But definitely, I think that, the reason or the reasonings behind this episode comes from this term that you hear often, this term, bless the matriarchy.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard that term before?
Blessed the matriarchy, yeah.
Where have you heard that? Where do you see that phrase?
I think I've seen it on TV before, so I think that's the only place I've seen it on.
Seen it on bumper stickers, social media posts.
But what does that mean? What does that mean?
What does that mean? What does that exactly? What does that mean?
Well, I think what it means is that everything that a woman has is that we're supposed to be forth with that, I guess. I don't know. Am I going in the right direction with that? I don't know.
Let me lead you to the good lands, young boy.
All right, go ahead.
And so, this term matriarchy, what it refers to, sometimes it can refer to societies that put women in leadership roles.
Yeah.
It refers to basically that women in leadership roles. And so I think that the reason why you see that phrase so prevalent these days is because, we live in this society of the Me Too movement. We live in this society, especially on reservations in American Indian communities. We live in this society where we preach things like decolonization. We preach things like, giving those that have always had the smaller voice, a bigger voice, oftentimes people of color and women.
Yeah, I just said that.
I must have misinterpreted you, but that's kind of where that term comes from. And then so you hear that conversation often about matriarchs, about matriarchal societies, and I think a lot of that conversation definitely you hear in the urban areas.
Yeah,
because I think that we've definitely talked a lot about the differences between the urban perspective and the reservation perspective, and the fact that a lot of folks out in the urban areas have access to more education, or better education. So in a sense, they understanding what the place of women used to be for certain indigenous communities, for certain American Indian communities. And the fact that when you think about leadership, whether that's at a tribal level, a city level, state level, definitely at the national level, it's dominated by men.
Yeah. I mean, because both you and I, we grew up with women. You have a mother, I have a mother, grandmother, and they always taught us to respect women in a way where it's because they're the ones who bring life into this world.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. And they're the ones who own the land, and they're the ones who create the different types of laws within a household or a community. Because of them, without them, we wouldn't have these structures like that. But then when it comes into like the power of like governmental power or power within the different societies here on Hopi, then it becomes a different topic there.
It does. And so like when you think about like the Hopi perspective of the matriarch or matriarchy, that we definitely do give power to women.
Oh, yeah.
That women hold some sort of power, whether that's, and we've talked about this at lengths in other episodes, that women do own the land.
Yes, they do.
That they own the homes that folks live in. That they own any type of corn, squash, beans, melon that's cultivated and grown by the menfolk. And once that's handed over to the women, then that becomes their property as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically they're like we're the slaves to them, but when it comes to a different power, then it sort of reverses in that way.
I was going to say to a degree, some of them own our souls too.
Thank God, not for me. So
I don't know, man. I think Soul's got her name on a contract that I saw that said Carl's Soul somewhere.
Pretty much. There's a shirt that's going around that says Soul thinks I'm cool.
But, and so like with that, with our perspective of how women, what the places that women hold on the reservation within our traditional villages and then within our traditional contexts. And then I think that now you kind of see the rise of women in different areas of, holding leadership positions. And so what's your perspective on women being leaders?
Well, they're in the Hopi society. There are different social groups or societies that we have here on the reservation, and all of them are created by men,
or led by men.
There is one society that is led by women, and it was because they wanted to be in that power. They wanted to have that same power. So they created their own society there.
Their own women's society.
Yeah, their own women's society.
And so this group of societies that is within our villages, that's intertwined with our religions, intertwined with our culture, the fact that you have a women's society that some Hopis would argue that the creation of that women's society was the first civil rights movement.
Pretty much back in the, the
1400s,
14, yeah, somewhere around there.
Whenever that society was created, the fact that at some point women saw men enjoying themselves in the kiva, having escaped from their wives, and said that, hey, we want that too.
Yeah,
we get tired of our husbands too. We want to get away from y'all.
I want to dress like you too.
I want to wear men's dancing clothes and, be able to dance in the village.
Those shoes look really comfortable there.
Yeah, I want to show my knees.
Show my ankles a little bit more.
And so that's kind of an example, I guess, within our own culture, within our own communities, to where women kind of did grab for something more than what they had. And but I think that kind of, I guess, on a negative side in terms of the perspective on women in leadership positions from a Hopi context is that sometimes it is frowned upon.
Oh, yeah.
From the older folks about women being in leadership positions. Why is that?
I think it's because the societies that we hold here, or the societies that men hold, is all driven by men, and the powers that have, or that they have, is that they believe that women don't think in a way that a man does. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Women don't think about 30 packs and good smokes.
Yeah, I mean, like women don't. I guess because if I speak on like with my kwa, he said that
women don't appreciate pro wrestling.
Only men appreciate men on men. So, but no, it's like they think not rationally. I guess if you're talking in the Hopi sense that they don't lay out their plan first and then they just jump to conclusions. Mm-hmm. If you're talking about the Hopi men's society kind of thinking.
And then also too, another perspective that I've heard before from older folks is that the fact that women are precious.
Oh yeah.
That the life of a woman has more value than the life of a man. And so when you think about some of those jobs back in the old days, back in the Hisat time and the long, long ago, that you think about warfare.
Yeah.
That you think about warriors. And that the fact that if you were going into war as a warrior, that there was a potential that you could lose your life.
Yeah.
And so the fact that women's life was so precious that you could restart a village if you had to with women, that you could be able to do it. But there was no way to be able to restart a village if you only had men.
Yeah, that's true.
And so that was kind of, from this context that I've heard as the reason as to why women aren't warriors, as to why men hold those positions. And the same thing with hunting, that the fact that when you go hunting, especially in those old days, in the Hisat time and the long, long ago, that going hunting was perceived as a dangerous journey.
Task. Yeah.
Because then, you weren't out there in your pickup truck and driving down to, South Rim or North Rim down in the Grand Canyon, that you're actually on foot. You're having to make this journey. And the fact that, you might encounter things like dangerous animals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bears, wolves, or even encounter dangerous enemies.
Yeah.
While you're on your hunting trip. And so, that was also another thing that was deemed dangerous, and as a reason as to why only men went hunting.
Oh yeah,
women didn't go hunting.
Yeah.
And then I think entwined with that perspective is the fact that when you think about leadership, that in a way leadership can be dangerous, because then, like an old Hopi adage is what they would say, is that all the leaders have arrows shot at them. Because that when you're in this leadership position, that there are folks that look at leaders, sometimes they look at them with negative attitudes.
Oh, yeah.
That they look at them either with jealousy, or they look at them with anger for maybe a leader did something that wasn't in favorable of a particular person. And so in that perspective that these leaders have arrow shot at them, and that so in that old context, that leadership also was a position of danger. And so that was a reason as to why it was a responsibility of men to keep women out of those leadership positions to keep them safe.
Yeah, I guess you are in the right context there. You know, it's just that I guess we as men just want to kind of protect the opposite sex, you know, where it's like you're dainty and you smell like you smell of flowers, and
it's my job to protect you.
It's my job to protect you. This is 1950s.
I got the big muscles under all this wig. I swear there's muscles. So.
You know, we still think in that 1950s era, you know, we still think of that in where like Leave It to Beaver kind of style. It's like,
Leave It to Beaver.
Like, you know, the women should only stay home and tend to the men when they get home from work, you know, and watch the kids. And I guess today it's still kind of like that. There are women that still do that here on the reservation, is that some women don't hold jobs. They just stay at home, be a housewife, and, you know, tend to the children and tend to the house as their daily job there.
Mm-hmm. And those practices definitely still exist. And then I think that, you know, I did have one more kind of example about the old perspective about women in leadership. And it's a really interesting perspective, especially in this day and age where we're encouraging more of our young girls to grow and develop and, you know, even sit in these positions of leadership. I mean, I even have one relative who always says, you know, she's younger than I am, and she always says that, you know, my goal one day is to be the chairwoman of the Hopi tribe. And, you know, it's an interesting thing because, you know, on the face of it, the fact is that you want to encourage people that have such high dreams, that have those types of aspirations. But definitely, I know that another perspective that I've heard in terms of this old perspective coming from Hopi is that when women do become in positions of significant leadership or in leadership that are significant positions, that's a sign when the world's going to end.
Yeah, I've heard that same saying from like Kwa and different men in that position there is because I guess, you know, it is a whole old Hopi kind of like, prophecy? That yes, women in power tend to have this more aggressiveness towards the world. I'm kind of, you got me in a position I'm all scared to whether I'm going to agree or disagree with you on that because, you know, I live in a household full of women. But, you know, at least the way that I interpret it, the way I interpret that saying, I think the fact that when you think about the old ways, and the fact that men mostly held the leadership positions within Hopi villages, at least, that it was this idea that once women start taking over, I don't think that it necessarily has anything to do with a woman's prerogative or a woman's perspective, how a woman perceives the world. But really what I think that what that message says is that it's going to be a world that's upside down. Yeah. That it's going to be a world where things are out of place to a degree. And so whenever that, you know, they came up with that concept way back when, that really their society was structured specifically in a certain way. Exactly. And before we go on, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here.
Strong Ones. Every Strong Ones design has a story and a unique meaning. They create designs to celebrate traditions of running and uplift Native cultures across the globe. They also partner with local artists on special projects in hopes to expose talent and creativity of Hopi people. Strong Ones are often referred to as Hohongvit in the Hopi language. They can be found at hohongvit.com. That's HOHONGVIT.com.
And we're back here. Thank you, guys. And so while Carl and I get added to the list of people to cancel through the Me Too movement, I think now's a good time to bring in our special guest. Yeah, let's go ahead before we say anything more to corrupt our manliness over here. So let's go. Yeah. In the studio, we have Samantha Honani. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, everybody. I am super excited to be here. I was like at the edge of my seat, ready to interject already and stand up for women everywhere.
She was ready to throw punches at me and Carl.
Right.
Ready to take those swings.
I think they got the darts.
Well, Sam, can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. Well, good day, everybody who are in your corner of the world. I hear that your podcast is now across big waters in different countries, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
We're
it
international.
Dang. Well, I'm really happy to be here. My name is Samantha Honani. Ne pakwamana yan Hopi Matiwa ne Pipongwa Satoa from the Tobacco Clan in Tewa Village in the first Mesa Village area. And I am currently the voice of women everywhere, apparently. Just kidding. No, there's such pressure.
Oh, yeah.
To try to combat these two here patriarchs in the studio today. But no, just kidding. I'm here humbly representing myself as well as the women who have helped to shape me and grow me in the individual I am today. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. And Sam, we definitely thank you for joining us and taking time out of your busy day. And so, I think that one of the reasons why, we thought of you when we were talking about doing this topic for this episode is the fact that you do have extensive experience within leadership positions on the Hopi Reservation and off the reservation. So can you tell us a little bit about what some of those experiences are, any type of mentors that you look up to who are women, and also to what the perspectives are of younger women that you know of, because I know that you also have a younger daughter and that you do definitely have ties with other younger women that are aiming to have do big things with their lives.
Yeah. Well, I've grown, I think in a balance equally here, both on the Hopi Reservation and outside. I've spent a majority of my time outside of Hopi, going to high school and going to get my college education and then coming back. The moment I was home, I swore I would never leave. That huge, just observing and experiencing the gap of those really teachable moments as a Hopi woman were absent for me. So I made it a point to, stay here and try to, play catch up. And I brought my daughter and raised her here since she was about 5 years old. And so she, I think I lived vicariously through her and her dancing and her, her participation in our culture as a dancer and so forth. So, the contributions to my growth as a female, oh my gosh, I can contribute that to a lot of people, namely my soul. I'm like Carl, we hold our soul in such grace, right? And then when she sheds that special light on you, like Carl, obviously is in recipient of, she, it's very, it's very rewarding for us as females in our family because, so is like the stamp of approval. And when we have her approval, it means we're doing something right.
Oh, definitely.
So I really revere our soul, Mary Ann Sapalovi. She's my dad's mom. And then the other women in my family, I think every single one of them, it doesn't matter if they hold bigger accomplishments than the other. They are all huge, golden stars for me to kind of attribute to, even if they are younger than me. So I really hold them in such standard. Other individuals, of course, is my current supervisor, who is Monica Navamsa. She's the executive director, former executive director, Barbara Poli. I think because I have such intertwined vested interest in our community on a very personal level and now a professional level, I have seen the work and the example that they laid for us here on Hopi on how to approach not just leadership, but like community advocacy and community contribution work and empowerment work for our girls here, but overall our community. So those are the two, professional leaders, women leaders that I look up to. And then of course you have like major female role models from Hopi. We're very fortunate.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so some of those women are like Diane Humitiwa and Lori Paestiwa, and others. So Luann Leonard that, from HEAF. And so I don't think we're without role models here for females on Hopi. And so my biggest, I guess, part in, trying to give back is to influence girls. And in doing so, I have this like motto or, kind of movement called Res Girl Rising. It's just more current, but it's definitely a theme or a way of being since I've been in the position of leadership. And I think leadership is like, can be found in many, many different parts of your everyday, living. And so for me, I find it in pockets of dealing with, work stuff, of course, but then the other areas of, where people aren't stepping up to making things happen. I think one of the biggest common expressions out here is like, there's nothing, or nobody's doing nothing, or we don't have anything. And it's usually because nobody wants to step up and lead that, lead the charge. Yeah. And take that role on, because either we don't want to, we're lazy,
or sometimes we don't know how. Sometimes
we don't know how. There's not,
support
something.
Sometimes,
yeah.
Like
there's no structure to actually step in. Like nothing's ready. So a lot of I just got tired of seeing things and getting frustrated in those different pockets or whatever topic it is. So now I have my hands in a lot of things, but I've learned how to balance it. And so you'll see my name pop up in different, areas in our reservation out here. I'm involved in the school transition team to this new Hopi Skate Hopi 264 youth group, Villages Against Meth and Hopi Tewa Community Movement. And then, of course, my professional role as Hopi Leadership Program and the Hopi Foundation and so on.
Oh, wow.
But it's a lot. But the only way I've been able to balance all of that out is by taking the position of a mentor, right? And so instead of doing all the work myself, I'm over there trying to just lend ideas, get things started, and then stepping away. And so that's one of the biggest things of what I've learned so far in how to take lead and get things done.
Wow, you're a lot busier than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have that type of resume.
I tell people I'm busy.
Right?
My resume just has push the button,
push the
record button and make fart jokes every now and then. And that's pretty much it.
My resume is a professional shit talker.
No, and so I'm really today is a Saturday, right? And today I wanted to sleep in. I kind of when it's time for my break, I'm just like, okay, I'm dead. I don't want to do anything. But then of course, this is like a highlight of a Saturday, sitting with you guys and seeing the back end of what Carl and J-Man is. It's amazing. And you guys are bringing light to all of these cool issues on Hopi and topics, and it's more than button pushing, Carl.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's led by men. Led by men and
right?
pushed the button by a man.
And you have one girl.
Don't give Carl any ego. I try to discourage that. But when you were talking about kind of your experiences and some of the folks that you've looked up to as mentors, that's definitely something I wanted to get into, because you are right that on the national level, that there are many women leaders now that are emerging, specifically Native women leaders that are emerging. You mentioned Diane Humitiwa.
Yeah.
For those of you out there that may not know, she is the first American Indian woman appointed to a federal judgeship. And she holds that judgeship position in the state of Arizona. Hopi Woman from Carl's village, from the village of Hotvela, somebody that I've had the honor of working under.
And then I think that the other person that a lot of people are talking about now is Deb.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Deb Hanlon.
Deb Howland. And then, she's definitely one of our relatives from the Pueblo tribes. And so I think that, the fact that you have these Native women that are in prominent position is probably a reason as to why now you see more people talking about matriarchs and, giving those power to those women. And so, between the two of you, why do you think that our women have been able to get into these positions?
Because I think we've made ourselves relevant. I was like trying to comprise where this movement has gone and, bless the matriarch. I have heard it before, but, I think outside, I wanted to comment on that, is outside trending, themes and quotes and stuff like that usually happen outside and is done in an urban setting because they can see outside and just how, and privilege, not privilege, but they hold home as in a certain standard and a light. And here we're living it, right? We don't necessarily have that perspective because we're so in depth and intertwined living the life here. So that's why I was like, what? I've never heard of blessed and matriarch. And then I was like, oh, well, anyway. So I think because we women of Native, background and culture are in these positions is because somebody before them made their presence relevant. They saw their, just how much a man, voice and experience and, how intellectually we have, we can approach things. And, I think, and I'm so proud of where we are, in Department of Interior, right? Where Native people, we are in under a department that is, that doesn't even talk about humanity. It's all animal and land, right? And then we have natives stuck in there. And then you have our very own to lead the charge. So I really think that it's probably because somebody made her presence relevant before she stepped in.
So with all of that power and all of that thing comes that controversy where it states that, Hopis were never supposed to be in a Bahana position. Women especially were not supposed to be in that position there. And that kind of plays that controversy is like women that are going off the reservation to become like judges or like in Department of Interior and all of that. Then it becomes to where they're not doing their Hopi role there.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
Because subsequently you're sacrificing whatever responsibilities that you have for your clan, for your home, for your village to undertake a lot of these things to be in these professional positions. Yeah,
but I think also on the other hand of that is I don't think women intentionally do that, in a nefarious, way.
Yeah.
They're doing it in hopes that they can, lend a voice from their people and Native country overall in these positions. And so it's really hard to kind of bring relevance to some of those decisions to men or a people that are really trying to hold on to language and to way of life and stuff like that. So, but I also think that there's a place for us and in as long as we can do it with balance, and I definitely think that these women in these positions, they don't leave their identity at the doorstep. I was so Deb was over there with her manta, she went and she is carrying her people with her on her sleeve, literally on her. And, I don't know, we can go on and about the reasons and finding balance and all that.
There was that controversy.
No questions about exploiting culture, Carl.
There was that controversy in the different schools. And okay, so this is going to be a story here. And
I hope it's not about peeling potatoes and learning how to cook potatoes for the first time, because goddamn, last time you told that story took half the episode.
It was relevant to the conversation.
It was
relevant. I told you it was relevant. Let me tell my story, okay? All right. So in part of the news, remember there was that Native Americans could not dress in their Native attire
That's right.
during graduations. And
Right.
I said that, don't dress as a Native American because you're not going to a Native American school. You're going to a Bahana school where Bahana attire is required there.
Right.
Even though you have that mindset of saying that I want to keep my culture alive, you should have kept it alive at your own place there.
Whoa.
It's not to where
Carl used to work for a boarding school. So,
I know. He's like boarding superintendent over here.
No. Okay. So the reservation is an isolated place here, right? And our culture is practiced here. Our most deep secrets are kept here. Mm-hmm. But when you exploit it on the outside world, that means that you're just showing off to the outside world there, saying that this is who I want to be here. And if I go to a Bahana school and the dress code required me to cut off my hair and do that, I'm going to go gladly accept because it's their rules there. If they come to the reservation, it's going to be our rules here, right?
I think that, what you're saying, it sounds ugly on the face of it, but I think that internally we do that oftentimes because then, I've had experience in places like medical schools, places of where, you consider where you walk through the doors, where you think of it's this highest of level of professionalism, where you do see our people putting on suits. You do see our people getting those high top fades, wearing, the Aldos or, wearing wherever it's out. So I do think that, that does happen, but you do definitely have folks out there that do want to represent and wear their regalia in different spaces and such.
I think that by coming into those spaces, you're disrupting it.
Yeah.
And you're reclaiming just by the mere fact of wearing your traditional clothes in such a non-Hopi space that you're disrupting all of that. And you're in, whether it's comfortable for you or for, not you, but for the space itself, you're breaking those barriers and you're breaking the, this institution, and is that our role to do that? No, but it's, I think it's really up to the individual. And honestly, wherever their low, graduation may be, that is native land. Like I really honestly think that
it is native.
So even though it's Phoenix, that's the land of the Gila River people. And
so. I still understand that. This is our land. This is what we want to do here. But that's not our place to do it with. Like, if it was
you mean it's not our thing.
It's not our thing to do. It's not our thing to exploit in a way. Hopi should stay on the Hopi here, on the reservation, rather than saying that, this is our land here and then I want to claim it back by dressing up in a way.
No, that's not what I'm saying either. And then I think by you wearing it, you're not necessarily sharing the secrets or exploiting Hopi by wearing your traditional clothes at a graduation, say in Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
I think by the mere fact of you wearing your clothing there, you're bringing your identity into that space, whereas leaving all of that where it should be here at home. I'm trying to say two things, but I get what you're saying is that, it's not a Hopi space.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when Carl drives the car. As I mentioned before, Carl doesn't know how to drive straight.
But it does give that concept. It does give that context of to where maybe like Deb Haaland shouldn't wear her manta because it is a part of the United States, America, and that was created for white men only. Right. And to reclaim that there.
And in past episodes, folks know where Carl's phone number is. And, as I mentioned before, that Carl's perspective is his perspective and does not represent everybody here at the Carl and J Man Save the World podcast.
Okay. So what I'm saying is,
Carl, if I could take the wheel back.
No. Okay.
And then drive this conversation back.
Okay. Let me make one more point here. Is that
I hope it's about potatoes.
No, the reason why I'm saying that is because, yes, the white man created a government there. The white man created something for himself, right? And to go back and doing that creates, just like a I'm special here. I'm like, you know, I want to create this specialness around myself here in a white man setting there. And I mean, like if I go over there with, you know, with a traditional attire, I'm going to be looked at weirdly because I don't hold power. I don't hold anything like that.
Oh, but she does with
I know, but that's
the mere wearing of her manta and clothing is she is reclaiming that power. And in that position, she's, you know, just by her wearing that is a statement that I'm here. I'm from this, you know, my indigenous
people. Yeah. And I congratulate her with that.
For them.
Yeah.
And when Carl shows up to the big function in his regalia, he's wearing a G-string.
And I congratulate her for doing that. And I wish that it is a Native American
You're not going to win this argument, Mr.
Okay, no, okay.
Give me the wheel back.
Okay, wait. One more thing.
No.
One more thing here.
It's like one more comment.
I thank her for doing that. I thank her for creating a gateway for Native Americans to become in that general power, but still in that way. That wasn't created for us. That was never created for us. Government works because it works for them. It works because it was created exactly for the white man. It was never created for,
of course not.
Yeah, for Native America. But to change it in that way means changing the entirety of America there.
As it should.
Of course, it should change.
It's
but
about damn time that we have one of our own in there and can influence, you know, better changes and policies that hopefully will trickle down and actually make an impact and a freaking difference for us.
I hope that
whether we like it or not, we freaking live in a government run.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't know, that I guess that's the whole, like, if you can't beat them, join them kind of thing. But I honestly think that she's there to make changes, and we have to trust that.
Oh yeah. I congratulate her on that way. Well, thank you for that. You know, that insight there, and thank you for that whole thing, because I guess I do think of just the village mindset where it's like, you know, village is just a small place, and we should just become, you know, just be Hopi basically.
I get that. And that's what I'm saying is that I got to contribute to and give thanks to the stronghold.
Yeah.
And God, if we didn't have a stronghold, you know, where would we be? So I appreciate that.
And I do. I appreciate all of that.
And so if I can take back the wheel from Mr. BIE over here. And like I said, and so I think that, you know, one of the thoughts that I had, at least in terms of the topic of the episode, is that I think that when you think about the differences between women and men, that you really see it when you're a parent. That you really see it if you're somebody that has raised girls and has raised young boys, that you really see the differences in terms of the perspectives of how each gender grows up. Okay. Because I am a father of both girls and I have a son, and you see how the girls are in terms of how they carry themselves, how they approach things like school, how they approach other types of projects, because, you know, I'm very fortunate, you know, the fact that my girls are very smart, that they're about school, they like school, that they do approach it with sincerity. But then my son, you know, he's quite the opposite, that, you know, he'd rather do things like break things or, you know, play with toys, a little bit more disruptive. And so I think that in that way is kind of where you see this different ideology of genders, of how they approach things. And so, you know, especially when you get older and that, you know, you see women and then you see how they carry themselves, that they definitely think more in a way. And I think that men are definitely more direct.
Yeah, I want to interject there. I mean, you said earlier in the show that, you know, there's reasons why Hopi men did not consider women in leadership, and that it's, you know, sort of taboo for Hopi or contradict, you know, our social and cultural structures out here. And so I think one of the reasons I heard is that we are very emotional beings, right? And that we, alongside the reasoning around being precious and looked after, you know, we bear the children, we are the fire keepers, you know, I've heard that before. And, you know, I also think that women today, because of change and time, I really try to, keep in that, keep in consideration of where we've come from as a people and where we are today. And, I'm careful in those choices of taking on leadership roles. I do get the sense that I am going to be criticized. I am going to be looked at for my, history, personal history. And so I wear my, alcohol, freedom in sobriety on my sleeve, and, I'm not afraid of, owning where I've gone wrong and stuff like that. So I think what, women, moving forward in leadership roles out here, you're seeing more and more of it. And, like you said, Justin, that, you are raising women or girls, future women. And, I know you'd always support them in the roles that they will play in for our people out here. So I think, we're, Hopi are progressive. We grow. They've every turn of the centuries, or every turn of something happening or they're faced with, they persevere and they grow. And so I think that's where we are today.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely think that plays out, and you see it playing out, the fact that women might take certain things more seriously, like I mentioned, education or certain opportunities, because as we were talking, I kind of had this thought that popped into my head that outside of my culinary work experience, every single supervisor I've had were all women.
Right.
And like I mentioned before, the fact that I did get to work under Diane Humitiwa, who I have tons and tremendous amounts of respect for, the way that she carried herself, the work ethic that she has, and the fact that all these women have been a part of educating me and teaching me how to lead, shows the fact that they've also carried those same attributes and virtues as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. To thank all of the women out there trying to go further on with not just the culture itself, but further on in a Bahana world is something daunting, and is something that none of us would want to do. And to have that honor to do that, it's something where these women here want to do that for, not for themselves, but I guess for their families and for their clanship and for the people that they do care about.
Exactly. And I think I find myself, as well as looking at others, through social media, or, just personal conversation, of how women are up late.
Yeah.
Because our days are so extended. And I'm sure it's like that for you guys. I don't know what you do with your time.
I'm in bed by 9 o'clock every day.
I'm sure you are, but as women and working women, or women in leadership roles, I think all women are in some sort of leadership role, whether they're a mom running a household or, in their career or whatever. So, I see that and man, it's because they aren't doing it for themselves.
Oh, no.
They're not beating themselves, records. So I know it's for a better outside cause.
And so, Sam, talking about because we've talked about your experiences growing up as a leader, but thinking about those younger girls that we've mentioned, our daughters, folks that we've come across, what do you see that's going on, whether that's here on the Hopi reservation or off the reservation, that are helping these young girls get into these positions to be in these leadership positions?
Wow. So I think on a national network, like in Native country, there's different organizations, all led by nonprofit work, right? Oh, I just super appreciate the nonprofit world, and especially in Native country. But you have things like the Imagine Network. Imagine Network is in different pockets of different Native communities, focusing on girl projects. And so they're raising, and then they're giving it back to the community members themselves, the women leaders, to try to come up with ways to empower and raise these girls in culture, in language, and empowering them in other avenues. There's things like that happening on the level. And then, of course, out of COVID, these ideas have been born because of, the detriments of, isolation and, closures and stuff like that. So that's what I've seen most recently. And then here locally for Hopi, you have, different, there's, the Hopi Leadership Program to the different school systems. I mean, the schools, we don't give them credit enough, but they are doing amazing things on the school level with the teachers and the support staff there. And whether that's cultural revitalization through language classes and not cultural revitalization, but like language and creative ways of educating our kids here. I want to give those guys credit, And then there's also, the different programming at nonprofits here. I can't think off the top of my head, but they're doing a phenomenal job. And I'm not just doing that plug for my place of work, but really there's other organizations out here doing amazing things.
Perfect.
Definitely a lot of opportunities out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So before we go, is there anything that you want to say to young girls out there, give advice to, just to encourage them in a way that, this is not just a man's world here.
Oh God, no. We're here and we're staying and we're going to probably be growing and they're just, y'all are just going to have to, make room and make way for us. So no, one of the concepts that I've learned in the work of Indigenous education, particularly here in Hopi, is this concept of that's called empowerment. It's different than empowerment. Empowerment is how you draw motivation and, from within yourself. Because at the end of the day, when I'm laying there at night and I'm like mulling over all these things that I have in my hands, I have the most amazing people outside of me that I can look at for empowering. But at the end of the day, I have to do a lot of self-positive talk. And that's where empowerment comes from, is finding that empowerment from yourself to keep yourself pushing forward. And so that's my last message of, Res Girls Rising to any issues, topics, opportunities, and to make a difference, and that I hope that you will step in to those positions, looking at, not just the immediate family members in your household, but looking outside at people that look exactly like you from your maybe village, clan, whatever, that you have those people besides yourself to keep you going.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And just so listeners know, I did recommend that we bring a female on as a third, and Carl said no. So he said, and I quote, no, I'm just kidding.
No, but all of that conversation there is just to create that balance of not just one-sidedness, but just to look at both sides of how Hopi functions and how Hopi thinks, especially on real in the village kind of thinking. So we thank our guest here for joining us, and thank you for her perspective views on how Hopi women or how Native American women out there are actually gaining a lot of the power that is lost throughout Native America.
Taking that power back away from BIA guys like Carl. And so definitely we'd like to thank you all for joining us this week for episode of Carl and J-Man. Don't forget, if you're not following us on our social media accounts, you can find us at Carl and J-Man all across the board on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you're listening to us on YouTube, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe. We got a lot of brand new content coming via the YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah.
And then also, too, if you're listening to us on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, don't forget to give us a 5-star review. We definitely appreciate that.
And if you want to donate to Carl and J-Man Save the World podcast, go to anchor.fm/CJ Podcast 85 to donate and become our monthly donor. Or if you want to just buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/CJ Podcast and just to donate $1 or buy us a cup of coffee. So thank you again, everybody joining us here today. My name is Carl, and this is my best friend, J-Man.
So long. Quack, quack.